up tonight on the news at 5. Governor Bullock lays out the initial plan for giving out a COVID vaccine as soon as we have one. Plus, the Montana Law Enforcement Academy observes domestic violence awareness with a silent witness exhibit.
From Montana's news leader, this is MTN News at 5.
Good afternoon and welcome to the News at 5. I'm Jessica Nelson. Thank you for joining us. Today, Governor Steve Bullock urged Montanans to continue COVID-19 precautions for the benefit of medical workers and laid out the state's initial plan for giving out a COVID vaccine once it's available. Leaders would first direct the vaccine to healthcare and other essential workers and those at increased risk of getting COVID or experiencing a severe case. The state will put together a vaccine coordination team to work on refining the plan. Bullock also introduced Charlotte Skinner, an ER nurse from St. Peter's Health, who talked about the added stress COVID has put on frontline workers like herself. She asked people to come together regardless of political differences to follow public health recommendations.
I'm asking you today to stop segregating yourselves into maskers and anti-maskers, and to stand with us on the common ground of science and evidence, which is clearly telling us that masking works.
Bullock again said he does not want to implement new statewide COVID restrictions, saying that would be unfair to those already doing the right thing. But he urged everyone to follow the guidelines that have already been put in place. Montana surpassed 24,000 COVID-19 cases today, with about 1/3 of those cases currently active. The state also recorded new deaths today in Yellowstone, Wheatland Hill, and Custer counties, bringing the total to 273 deaths. 360 people are currently hospitalized with the virus. Now, something to keep in mind, MTN numbers will vary from those reported by state officials. We track data from the state and local health departments to give you the most up-to-date information available. Switching gears now to our forecast. Curtis, how's it going?
A little cleaner out there, so to speak, as a little storm last night into this morning moving out. But yeah, very wintry scene here across most of the state, although some areas are up into the low 50s temperature-wise right now. But another storm will be bearing down on the state for tomorrow. And look how much of Montana is under a winter weather advisory. This going until 10 o'clock on Thursday morning. South Central, Southeast Montana under a winter storm watch. A lot of the state will be looking at another day or a couple of days of difficult travel conditions here because of the wintry weather moving in tomorrow. May start with a few raindrops in some areas, but a lot of locations looking at least a few inches of snow accumulating. The temperatures will be falling, with the flakes falling on Friday as another system moves in. If you're thinking though winter is here for good, it's not. Fall is not finished and warmer temperatures will return. Let you know when coming up.
Thanks, Curtis. In observance of Domestic Violence Awareness Month, the Montana Law Enforcement Academy is hosting the Montana Silent Witness exhibit until October 23rd. MTN's John Riley spoke with the administration about the impact of domestic violence here in the state.
Each of the 95 red wooden silhouettes of the Silent Witness exhibit represents a Montana woman that was killed during a domestic violence situation. Each one bears the names of those killed, while one stands as the silent witness to represent murders unsolved. The exhibit is a somber reminder of the need to raise awareness about domestic violence and encourage action to create change.
The domestic violence as an overall subject matter attacks the very social fabric of our communities.
Natalie Adorni is the program manager at the Montana Law Enforcement Academy. Part of her job is to help train law enforcement students on how to respond to domestic violence situations. She stresses just how impactful those interactions can be and the importance of listening.
Part of the field guide is to encourage our law enforcement officers to promote victim engagement, which means the earlier that law enforcement can get involved, the more that it restores safety for not only the victim, but promotes safety for children in the homes, family members, and in communities.
How law enforcement treats domestic violence has significantly changed over the decades. The Law Enforcement Academy acknowledges ending domestic violence isn't something law enforcement can do alone. Education, community partnerships, and advocacy all play vital roles in helping victims and reducing cases of domestic violence.
Like many other crimes, like human trafficking, like drug-endangered children, it takes a community and a multidisciplinary approach to address this crime.
Montana, along with the rest of the United States, still has a long way to go to curb domestic violence. Until then, the silhouettes of the Silent Witness exhibit will serve as a reminder of what has been lost. Reporting in Helena, John Riley, MTN News.
If you or someone you know are the victim or survivor of domestic violence, know that help is available. The National Domestic Violence Hotline is available 24/7. That number's right there at the bottom of your screen. It's 1-800-799-7233. An advocate can provide assistance to victims and anyone calling on their behalf. Montana has joined 10 other states and the U.S. Department of Justice in filing a civil antitrust lawsuit against Google. The complaint filed in D.C. alleges Google's anti-competitive practices have had harmful effects on competition and consumers. Google has foreclosed any meaningful search competitor from gaining vital distribution and scale, eliminating competition for a majority of search engines in the U.S. In addition to Montana, other participating states include Arkansas, Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, and several others. For the next several days, folks in Browning have a little less time to shop at the grocery store due to the pandemic. Glacier Family Foods in Browning is closing 3 hours early each day from October 14th through the 30th to allow more time for cleaning. The general manager says there is a staffing shortage because some employees have tested positive for the coronavirus and cannot work. She also says the community has been very receptive so far to the change in hours.
It just made sense for us just to cut the hours. We wipe everything down with sanitizer and then we go through the store and spray everything down, which is suitable for the grocery store. It's not toxic.
Management will reassess the situation on October 30th and decide if they need to continue to close early or if they can return to normal operating hours. Now that the temperatures are dropping, outdoor dining options are closing, and that could be costly for some restaurants struggling to stay open due to the pandemic. With Montana still in phase 2 of reopening, bars and restaurants can only operate at 75% capacity. Many eateries used additional space from their outdoor patios in the spring and summer to comply with these regulations. But now the cold weather has made outdoor eating no longer an option. Now, some restaurants will be forced to take a financial hit, while others are looking at possibly keeping their outdoor areas open and adding heaters.
With the awning on there, we're unable to do heating because we don't have the height difference. So unfortunately, it is closed for the winter. We pretty much just tarp it off and put everything away.
Now, due to the pandemic and since it started, restaurants across the country, nearly 100,000 have closed. All right, when we come back, Chief Meteorologist Curtis Grevenance has the full forecast for us and just how much snow will be coming our way. And coming up later, a deeper look into the personal and professional life of Greg Gianforte. Mike Dennison has that full story after the break.
Tracker weather starts now with Chief Meteorologist Curtis Grevenance.
All right, welcome back, everybody. A little snow, a little freezing rain last night into this morning. Looking pretty nice, though. The clouds breaking up around Lewistown. Nice big cloud right around the Highwood Mountains here, and did not warm up much around Great Falls today. Believe it or not, last night we were fluctuating between the upper 20s and the mid 30s. High temperatures this afternoon stayed in the low 30s around Great Falls, but check that out, Helena, 52 degrees. There's a little boundary right in between Great Falls and Helena here, and really Cut Bank and Kalispell. You can see the colder temperatures out here. Billings to Livingston, certainly a boundary separating some of that colder air from warmer air off towards the west. But most of the state is under a winter weather advisory. South central, southeast Montana winter storm watch here for this next system, but going into effect tomorrow, continuing through Wednesday night into Thursday morning, about 2 to 6 inches out into the plains. Some places a little further south of Great Falls, closer to the Little Belt Mountains, could have maybe up to 8 inches of snow. The valleys, including Helen and Bozeman, could have 1 to 3 inches of snow, not as much as the weekend system. And the mountains, as much as 10 inches of additional snow. A couple of flakes out there earlier today, but the radar really beginning to quiet down right now. And the storm that came through yesterday is bringing some of the white stuff to Minnesota and also Wisconsin and the Dakotas here. But tonight, quiet. Heading into tomorrow morning, that's when we'll start to see some areas of snow developing, mainly in the mountains here, maybe a little bit out the High Line through tomorrow morning. Spotty precipitation through the morning hours. It's later in the afternoon, the evening, that's when things will begin to blossom. There may be a couple of raindrops mixed in with the snow initially, but after about this time tomorrow, that's when the snow will really start to increase, the temperatures will decrease, and the road conditions, the travel conditions, will also decrease heading through Wednesday evening, Wednesday night through the overnight hours into Thursday morning. And then the storm starts to break up, and a lot of the state should be partly cloudy on Thursday afternoon with a couple of snow showers still lingering mainly over the mountains. So through tonight into tomorrow morning, mainly in the mountain locations, picking up an accumulation, but heading through the afternoon and the evening, out the High Line, a couple inches of snow, and then a little later on, look at that accumulation heading into Thursday morning, places like Helena, Great Falls, Lewistown, central Montana picking up that accumulation really through Wednesday night into Thursday morning. So there goes that system Thursday. Here's the next one, increasing with snow blossoming through Friday afternoon and Friday evening into Saturday morning. Saturday late, that snow will be moving out as Arctic high pressure with the likelihood of record cold will be moving in Saturday night into Sunday morning. We're likely going down below zero on Saturday night. Tonight, above zero. The teens and 20s here for most locations. Opine down to 9 though. A couple of flakes of snow around daybreak tomorrow morning. And here's the forecast for tomorrow. High temperatures in the 20s, and again, some spotty snow in the morning becoming more widespread through later in the afternoon and the evening. So watch us tomorrow night. I'll be tracking some of this snow around the Helena area. Still a little warmer. Temperatures getting up into the 40s in the lower elevation, so maybe a few raindrops mixed in with the snow initially. But I would expect by Thursday morning about 1 to 3 inches of snow in the Helena Valley, maybe a little more in the hills around town. More significant accumulation likely Friday night into Saturday. And look at that cold. This weekend, highs in the teens with lows near zero. Some places around Helena, those normally colder spots will be below zero. Great Falls, light snow tomorrow afternoon, evening into Thursday morning. A steadier, heavier snow Friday night into Saturday, and then dropping below zero for Sunday morning.
Today, in the second part of our two-part series, MTN Chief Political Reporter Mike Dennison gives us a closer look at the personal and professional background of Republican candidate Greg Gianforte.
If you've heard Greg Gianforte talk at all, you've no doubt heard Montana's only congressman say he's a business guy, or something like this.
I've spent my entire career creating good-paying jobs, mostly here in Montana.
Which is very much true. Gianforte and his wife Susan co-founded Right Now Technologies in Bozeman in the mid-1990s, a firm that developed and sold software that enabled companies to do customer service electronically, just as the internet took off. It grew into an international company with 500 employees in Bozeman and was sold to Oracle Corporation in 2012 for $1.8 billion, earning the Gianfortes many millions. But before the Gianfortes moved from the East Coast to Bozeman in 1994, they had already launched and sold 4 technology startups, including Brightwork, a software networking firm purchased by the computer security giant McAfee.
We built that. We ended up with about 150,000 installations around the world. And that business was purchased by McAfee, the antivirus company. And then I ran the North American business for McAfee for a period of time.
Gianforte grew up in a Philadelphia suburb and went to college at Stevens Institute of Technology in Hoboken, New Jersey, right across the Hudson River from Manhattan. He earned degrees in electrical engineering and computer science and calls himself a genuine geek. But while Gianforte grew up on the East Coast, he says the junior high school trip to Montana, when he spent the summer in the backcountry near Red Lodge, convinced him this is where he wanted to live. It just took him a while to get here. The Gianfortes had 3 children when they moved to Bozeman, and their 4th child was born there.
The whole concept was we wanted to raise our family in Montana. And I thought the internet created an opportunity to really remove the barriers of geography. And I came here and people said, well, no one's ever done that before, Greg. But I saw the potential.
In addition to starting Right Now Technologies in Montana, the Gianfortes also got involved in politics, giving money to Republican candidates and advocating for many conservative causes. They also have a family charitable foundation that has donated nearly $80 million to some of those causes, but also to local schools, churches, and social services. It wasn't until 2016 that Gianforte finally ran for office, losing the governor's race to Democratic incumbent Steve Bullock. 6 months later, he won Montana's only congressional seat in a special election to succeed Ryan Zinke, who had been appointed Interior Secretary by President Trump. Now Gianforte is back for a second try at the governorship, pitching his business experience as his main selling point. Montana voters are deciding right now if that's the right resume. In Helena, I'm Mike Dennison for MTN News.
Coming up next on the news at 5, the economic impact from the pandemic claims another Great Falls restaurant.
News leader, you're watching MTN News at 5.
Welcome back with us. There will soon be one less place to dine at if you visit Great Falls. As MTN's Coulter Anstad explains, Last Straw Bistro is about to become the latest victim of COVID-19.
This was pretty popular with everybody too, the whole sealing machine.
It was hard to stay busy at the Last Straw Bistro Tuesday. The soft hum of the machines, not the sound of customers, filled the restaurant.
The walk-by traffic downtown is just not what it used to be. So now that's where most of our business came from.
Co-owner Nicole Gozay says the decision to shut down was the last resort.
It's been painful and it's been brought up a couple times, and we would try to think of new ideas to kind of not quite let go, like if we hang in just a little bit longer, and it just didn't happen that way. So when you really decide to, and it really becomes a reality that we are closing, and all the feedback we've gotten from customers and social media and stuff, and just all the love and stuff, it makes it hard.
According to a report released by Yelp last month, over 160,000 businesses listed with the company at the beginning of the pandemic have closed. Of those, 60% have closed permanently. As for what's next for Gozay,
until times kind of play out and we see what the future holds for Great Falls, I think just take a deep breath and, count your blessings on what you have now instead of struggling to make something else work. Just because we're closing doesn't mean the whole world is closing, so, there's still hope.
In Great Falls, Coulter Anstad, MTN News.
Up next, rock and roll fans, you'll want to start saving for this upcoming auction. How much you need to buy one of Van Halen's guitars.
When we welcome our West Coast viewers, a grand juror in the Breonna Taylor case breaking silence with a stunning claim against the Attorney General and what jurors weren't allowed to consider. Also speeding up development of a COVID vaccine by deliberately infecting volunteers with the virus. We'll tell you more ahead on Nightly News.
From Montana's news leader, you're watching MTN News at 5.
A couple of pieces of rock and roll history will soon hit the auction block. The 2 custom-made guitars once belonged to the late rock star Eddie Van Halen. Julian's Auctions will sell them in December. It's part of their Icons and Idols event. Van Halen died earlier this month at the age of 65 after a battle with cancer. The guitars are expected to sell from between $40,000 to $80,000 each. All right, thank you so much for making us a part of your evening. Have a great rest of your night. Nightly News is next.